Ladies and gentlemen, why does a high-ranking Navy commander who was appointed over every other military officer in the country to become the top aide to the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, who's traveled the world on Air Force One, who's attended national security briefings in the White House, and who witnessed the 9/11 devastation at her workplace in the Pentagon? Why does this person leave this powerful position and become a messenger of hope? We're going to find out today. My name is Frank Zaccari. This is Life Altering Events. This is Near-Death Experiences. We're having a message of hope. My guest today is Suzanne Giesemann, and she walked away from that powerful and prestigious position and discovered her gift as a medium. Now, Suzanne is the author of 13 books. 13 books. She's a keynote presenter at almost every conference that there is about spirituality, consciousness, afterlife, and near-death experiences. She hosts a radio show. She conducts classes and seminars. She made a documentary, which you have to watch, and she's an in-demand medium. Suzanne, welcome to Life Altering Events.
Thank you, Frank. I just love sharing what I've learned with others in hopes that they can discover the same things for themselves.
Absolutely. I so appreciate having you here. Suzanne, let's start with this very distinguished military career. What's it like being the aide to the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff? What's that like?
Oh, it was the most awesome assignment of my 20-year career, and it's absolutely the epitome of my career, even though I served as a commanding officer, which is every Navy officer's goal, to be at the right hand of the head of the military and to watch how the decisions are made, to be right there as the chairman is talking with other leaders, to be with the president several times, to fly on Air Force One is as cool as you would think it would be, but also extremely stressful if you are so caught up in the role and don't realize there's more to this life, what I realize now. So the pressure to always make sure your boss looks good, to not screw up, to always appear unruffled was tremendous. I had no tools at that time for being anything other than, buy the book and follow the rules.
Right. At that level, it is such a high exposure level. It's just amazing. I couldn't even imagine having a job like that. Now, 9/11 comes along. 9/11 had major impact on everybody. I read your story. I heard your documentary. Tell us what you were doing and what happened.
Oh, man, it was this beautiful Tuesday morning, I believe, blue sky, sunny, gorgeous day. And the chairman and I and the rest of the staff got on the head of the Air Force's plane and took off, headed for Europe. Later that week, the chairman was going to be knighted by Queen Elizabeth. I was going to be right there. It was going to be another absolute high point of my life to witness that, and didn't get to witness that because everything went to hell, didn't it, that day?
Yes.
A few hours out over the ocean, we got word about what was going on. The chairman looked at me and he said, "Take us back to Washington." I went up to the cockpit and said to the pilots, "We're going back." And they said, "Commander, our flight path is going to take us right over Manhattan." And by the time we got back there, every other aircraft in US airspace had been grounded, even the president's at that point. So we were in the last aircraft. We flew right over the plume of smoke coming up from Manhattan. Had no idea at that time that the towers had actually collapsed. And then we landed at Andrews Air Force Base and had a huge motorcade of policemen escorting us through the deserted streets of Washington back to our office building that we just left that morning. And seeing the plume of smoke coming up out of our office building, I have goosebumps just remembering the view of that. And then to go into the building, get a briefing from the top terrorism expert, and then walk around the outside to view the gaping hole. I stepped over jet engine pieces on the grass. So reality in your face, looking at this gaping hole, Frank, that's when I couldn't help but ask the questions like, why were those people that were right there sitting at their desks, like I could have been on another day around the corner, why were they there and not somebody else? Why do some people die before it's their time and others don't? That's when I started asking those questions.
Wow, that's incredible to be that close and see it that vividly,
Yeah.
and that life-changing experience. Now, Suzanne, I was reading your book, May 25th, 2006. You're on a sailboat in Croatia,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
You're reading a book.
Could I
That's-
back up a bit there, Frank?
Sure.
I need to tell everybody why I was on that sailboat in Croatia.
Please.
Because 9/11 showed me life is too short not to live your dreams while you can. And my husband and I had long dreamed of selling the house and cars and going sailing, just sailing into the sunset. And I said, you know, there was another commander, same rank as I am in the Navy, who was in the wrong spot at the wrong time, or so we think, right? We think we know how life is supposed to go.
Right.
And he was killed 2 weeks before retirement. So I put in my retirement papers after 9/11 so we could live our dream. And the day I was retirement eligible, with 20 years to the date, I retired. And the very next day we went sailing. Sailed around a couple years around this part of the world, the United States, and then crossed the Atlantic Ocean. That was a major milestone. And we ended up in Croatia. But I had really, if truth be told, run away from reality in this idyllic lifestyle. That's why we were off the coast of Croatia.
Wow. I've heard many people say when we retire and sail away, but you actually did it.
Oh, yeah. And it was idyllic, but you talk about that date, June 8th, 2006. And that's when reality caught up to me that life is not always idyllic, and it doesn't have to be. And it's the wake-up calls that we get often in the form of tragedy that help us to awaken to a much greater reality. So this was the worst day of my life, and yet it was the turning point of my life when we got not a wake-up call, but a telephone call that said that my stepdaughter, Susan, you called me Susan at the beginning, she's my
Suzanne.
stepdaughter, and then you called me Suzanne. So I love when people call me Susan because there's that connection with my stepdaughter. She was a sergeant in the Marine Corps crossing the flight line at work, and out of the blue, lightning from a storm that hadn't even reached the area yet, about 10 miles away, struck her. And they worked on her for 7 hours, and she finally passed. And we got that phone call, and your whole reality crumbles, and there's no running away from that.
Right. Now, I've been to Croatia, and there's not like a telephone.
There were no phones. We were on the boat, and this was 2006. We didn't have satellite phones. We didn't have internet, instant internet. It was a whole day. We only got a small email through our single sideband radio that said, call home. It's important. Never imagined that Susan had passed, except for later, I realized a dream I had just before she passed. Susan came to me and said to me, the baby and I are fine. Don't worry about us. And you see, Frank, she was 6 months pregnant when she was killed. So I know that that was her soul's way of giving us a little bit of advance notice and ultimately letting me know the soul is always fine.
It's amazing. What a story. So you finally make it home. And that had to be an adventure in and of itself, leaving the boat, and because there's no direct flights from Croatia.
Oh, no.
To almost anywhere, as I found out. You finally make it home. You go in where Susan's body is, and what happened when you saw her? What went through your mind at that point?
Yeah, and that's why I talked about a turning point before, and this was yet another one. There is no final turning point. There are just always, what is the word that just flashed through my mind? They're just these touchstones that show us a greater reality. And it was when I went into the viewing room by myself and looked down at what I was told was Susan, but I saw this body that was so drastically different than anything I had ever seen when she was around. I just said out loud repeatedly, that's not Susan. And anybody who has seen a loved one minutes after they pass, you can literally see the transition that happens. What I realize now, of course, is as the spirit that animates this vessel departs, what you're left with is just the instrument, a vessel. And I knew in that moment, that's what life is about. That's what the body is, that you can't kill the vibrant spirit. And Susan was so vibrant. I set the intention then and there. All right, then I'm going to find you. I'm going to learn how to connect with that spirit, because you cannot possibly be gone.
Absolutely. So you go through the funeral, go back to Croatia, have to get the boat, right?
Yeah.
What happened when you're on the boat?
Well, I had picked up 3 books while back in the States about the afterlife. I had to know now, is this real? I also started meditating that week. And in 2006, that was not a common activity for people. It was still kind of out there. But I knew somehow, and that's the soul again coming to the surface, that if I wanted to connect with her myself, I needed to sit quietly every day with that intention and see what happened. But these 3 books about the afterlife, I started reading one on the flight, and we had a layover, an overnight stop. And I'm in the hotel sitting on the balcony, and all of a sudden I hear noises. And I said, what is that? And I get up and I go in the hotel room, and the television had come on by itself. Now, to that point in my life, that had never happened before. I looked around, there's no remote control. I go back I turned off TV, went back to the balcony, continued reading, and the very next paragraph, Frank, this medium who wrote the book said, those in the spirit world will often manipulate electronic appliances and devices to let us know they're around. I mean, the timing was divine. And of course it was. I got the goosebumps now. Everything's orchestrated. I didn't know that at the time. Then the several things happened after that, including butterflies following us for days at sea. And when we finally really noticed that just doesn't happen on a sailboat. The next paragraph in the next book that I brought back with me, I looked down and it says, the spirit world often manifests in magical ways, including like a butterfly in December. And I looked at my husband and I said, or maybe on the Aegean Sea. And so I finally, threw another beautiful butterfly sign that we reenacted for that documentary you talked about. It's called Messages of Hope. I just knew, okay, I may not sense Susan yet, but somehow her soul is letting us know I'm still right here.
Exactly. And it's reaching out saying it's okay. Is that what you wanted to know that? Is that right?
Yes. And at this point, it still was only a week after the funeral, and we're just numb. And I know all of you who have lost a loved one knows that feeling. And so I was very careful not to succumb to the thoughts that, oh, I'm just making this up, or it's just my vulnerability right now. I was discerning, has anything like this ever happened before? Could it be the result of prayers and intention and opening my belief? And indeed, of course, it is.
Absolutely. Now, you and your husband were both high-ranking Navy officers. And your life in the Navy, I was in the Air Force, life is facts and hard data.
Yeah.
Facts and hard data. And while you're on this, as this awakening is occurring, you decide you're going to go see a medium. Mm-hmm. Why did you decide to do that? And what happened when you met that medium?
Well, these books about the afterlife, of course, 2 of them were written by mediums, and then they mentioned mediumship, which is communicating with those who have passed. And I had always heard about them and was fascinated at the concept, but never had a reason to seek one out. But now we sure did. But I was not going to, again, be gullible. I was going to be open-mindedly skeptical. And because of that fact-based background that you mentioned, only verifiable evidence that a medium couldn't know about Susan or couldn't find anywhere else was going to convince me she was still here. Now, I was happily, by grace, I didn't ask for specific evidence, because I know now, after connecting with thousands of souls, that doesn't work. We're talking about very fine frequencies, subtle frequencies that we're tuning into. So if the spirits know you simply want verifiable evidence that they couldn't know, they can give you that. But specifics are a little more challenging. So I took my husband to a medium. And what's funny is it wasn't until years later I found out that my husband, Ty, didn't even know what a medium was. He just does that husband thing. And he went, yes, dear, whatever you want. And he went with me. And oh my gosh, I know it was part of the path. We ended up with a fantastic reading, and that was another turning point because there was no denying that Susan was right there in that reading with the medium and Ty and me, and both of us were just sobbing. We're not gullible people. We might have been grieving, but it was 7 months after the passing. We were in our right minds, and the preponderance of the evidence knocked our socks off, rocked our world to the point where everything changed from that point. I just said, I need to let the world know this is real. But at that point, I had no idea I would be letting people know it through my own experience of connecting with others' loved ones.
As you were in your documentary, you're meeting with a medium and she calls you up to the front. What happened there?
Well, I wrote a book, the biography of medium Anne Gaiman, in order to share with the world that mediumship is real. And I met her neighbor, evidential medium Janet No Havoc, and she asked me to write her book. In doing so, I sat in the back of her classroom to write about how she teaches and what her style is and what she teaches. And that's the incident you're talking about, where she said, hey, Suzanne, you can do this too. Come up here to the front and connect with this spirit that Janet, sensed standing here. Oh God, I could have killed her, because that Navy training is, you don't look stupid. You know what you're doing before you do it. And I was just out there. I mean, out there on display in front of the other students, standing up there thinking, I don't sense spirits. What is she doing to me? But I knew she knew there was a spirit there. I knew she has high ethics, and I knew she wouldn't call me up there if she didn't know I could do it. And I had been meditating 2 or 3 years every day at that point, and I didn't realize that that's what allowed me, when I just threw belief in Janet and belief in the spirit world and belief that maybe I can do this, let's see what happens. I closed my eyes, I tuned in, and because of that meditation allowing me to instantly drop into an open space, sensed amazing evidence about this man that was standing there. But at the time, Frank, it just felt like I was pulling data out of the air. Mm-hmm. It blew me away and showed me I could do it. And just fast forwarding, I set the goal. All right, I don't want to just be pulling data out. If these are really still people, only without a body, I need to feel you. I want to interact with you. And that's how my readings are today. It's a conversation. I feel their personality. It's totally interactive and real time and so filled with love. I'm so grateful for the way this connection has opened up.
That's incredible. And ladies and gentlemen, you have to watch this documentary. You find it, watch it. So now you're a practicing medium. You're helping people deal with this intense grief of losing a loved one. And you and your husband take 3 couples on a healing journey. Tell us about that.
It's so funny because, as you said that, 2 of the couples are right here in the area where I live right now. One of them I'm actually moved around the corner from, Irene and Tony Vuvalidis, and Lynn and Jeff Hollahan are visiting us this week. And then Cyril and Elizabeth Basson are out in Arizona. But we all came together through the organization Helping Parents Heal. So anybody who has a child or even a sibling across the veil can find so much comfort, camaraderie, support, information from that group, helpingparentsheal.org. But we were sitting together at a meal, 6 of us without the Vuvalidis, and our kids are right here in spirit with us. I'm bringing through evidence that validated things each of the couples had done that day to validate, yep, the kids are hanging around, things I couldn't have known. And it became very clear to us, we all enjoyed sailing, and the kids said to me, we want you all to go on a trip together and we'll come along too. Now, who's going to say no to that?
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
We chartered a sailboat, and I'm telling you, I've been on sailboats with other people for a few days. That's really tight quarters, and everybody's different, and you can kind of get on each other's nerves. But can you imagine 7 days on a sailboat with 4 couples, several people who had never even met each other before, and total harmony the entire time? So much love, hugs every morning, every night, laughter, joy. And we give all the credit to the awareness that our kids were with us and guiding us, and that all that matters is love. That's what we've learned from the passing of our kids.
It's incredible. Now, this led to, did this lead to the book Still Right Here? Did you
Oh,
write the book
yes,
first?
it's based on that, because the book is filled with the evidence that our kids gave us to show that it's not just a nice story. You can't deny the evidence. And then exactly this, the result of knowing that love is what matters, and that those who pass want us to be happy, want us to be joyful again, to live life fully, that we don't move forward without them, we move forward with them.
Mm-hmm. Wow. One of the stories in the book, I think it was Irene, and she had said or wrote, I don't want to live. I just want to die so that I can be with my child. How do you bring hope during this incredibly intense sorrow and grief?
Well, I met Irene, who now lives, I live 3 doors away from her. She was here first because she found me on the internet and had a reading with me. And she had set an intention to hear from her daughter. I knew nothing about her. I might have known she had a daughter. I'd have to go back and read the book myself. I've done so many readings, but her daughter is a force to be reckoned with. And she came through so clearly. It just showed Irene what we all know. You can't get your loved one back in physical form, but they are still right here. And knowing that and embracing that and moment by moment moving forward with her daughter, she has found joy again. And she's now the vice president of helping parents heal and helping other parents come to know that as well. All of us can do that as we come to realize that this life in physical form is not an isolated moment in time. It's a, as Joel Goldsmith, an author, said, it's a parenthesis in eternity. And we see each other again.
That's amazing. Some of the story, I read the vast majority of that book, and I absolutely love it. And it's another thing you have to do, folks, is get that book in addition to watching the documentary. And some of the descriptions, I have coffee every morning with my son.
Oh,
right.
Nice.
Those types of things
Yeah.
are just so intense. And it's the child wants, as you said, the child wants to make sure you're okay, right? And you want to know that they're okay. And then how does this spirit work as far as we're having coffee every morning? Is it it's hard to wrap your head around.
Yes, well, I have a friend who passed, and she's now talks to me daily, Brenda, in the spirit world. And she's the one that told me, Suzanne, there's only here. People think their loved ones go to some far off heaven, but what that really means is, and you've had your near-death experience, so you understand this, the awareness, consciousness, being is the underlying reality of everything. So if all there is this flow of life, this consciousness, this awareness, then each one of us is a point of that same awareness. We're not apart from it. We are a part of it. And so through your intention to have coffee with your loved one, you've just merged your points of awareness in this flow of consciousness. And here we are. We may be focusing on separate things, but it's all one flow. It's not geographical. So through intention, you say, let's have coffee, and boom, here they are. And you just tune in to the flow and talk to them, trust that they hear you, and with time, you'll hear them back.
This is just really amazing stuff. Ladies and gentlemen, Suzanne, this is really incredible. It's hard. It's hard for those of us to wrap our head around, number one, but it happens.
Oh, yes.
Real.
Yeah.
And it's a way to hold your loved ones forever. People told me, Frank, you have memories, and your memories allow you to hold your loved ones forever. Now, this is going way beyond.
No, this is way beyond. This is real time, here and now, because there only is this experience here and now, one now moment after another. And one of the main intentions I set with my guides, that whenever I do a reading, I sense from them, they share with me a current event in their loved ones' lives that shows they know what you're up to, even what you're thinking. And the way I know I'm tuned in before a reading is I simply shift my attention to my friend Brenda, and I say, hey, tell me something going on in our friend Lynette's life. Lynette schedules all my readings. Every day before a reading, we do this. It takes no ritual. It's just because there is only here in consciousness, and my intention allows this to happen. I say, Brenda, tell me what's going on with Lynette. And yesterday, Brenda, just like that, showed me Lynette with her hands on a spongy ball. And I just texted Lynette, and she texts back and she goes, oh, that little spy, I was just using an exercise ball to exercise my neck muscles. I mean, it's just this big dance of the light of consciousness. And it's just fun when we can stop taking things so seriously, not to diminish the ups and downs of our physical life, but when we can let go of our need to control everything and just go with the flow of the life, that's when the wondrous interactions take place.
I love this. This has just been such an enlightening discussion and conversation. We are just about out of time, Suzanne.
Darn.
With all you've accomplished and everything you've seen and done, what last thoughts do you want to leave with the viewers who are still maybe have some doubts?
Well, I have over 100 videos on YouTube, and my greatest goal is to show everybody that you can connect too. Mediums are wonderful, but that's a 1 or 2 time thing. We can make that connection with a few tools, and that's my goal, to teach everybody those tools, to find them yourselves. And for example, one of the latest I did was you can connect with your loved ones, how to play the sign game. So I encourage everyone to interact with your loved one, to know what kind of signs they send you, to look for the evidence if you need to be convinced that they're really here. But start with belief that there is a greater reality, that you can connect with those in it, and then just let spirit take you from there.
This is just really inspiring. I'm so impressed with what you've said and what you've done. Ladies and gentlemen, you have to look Suzanne up. You have to see these videos. You have to see that documentary. It will really open your eyes. If there's any question in your mind, this will open your eyes. Now, as I said, we're just about out of time. I want to thank Suzanne for this amazing story of transformation and healing. And ladies and gentlemen, no matter what life throws at you, and as we heard today, it's going to throw a lot at you, please do 3 things. Look up, get up, and never, ever give up. Pick up the pieces, start moving forward, and better times and better people will come into your life. If you'd like more information about Suzanne, she's all over the internet, or you can contact me and I will make sure I get it to her, but she's very easy to find. Look her up. You can see this show on ROKU TV and on my YouTube page, Frank Zaccari, and I will be sending links to Suzanne, and she'll put it in all the places where she puts out information and data. Now, let me leave you with this, ladies and gentlemen. None of us are in this alone. And the secret to walking on water is to know where the rocks are. And today, Suzanne has shown us where many of those rocks are. Join me again next week as we look into another life-altering event. Thank you again, Suzanne.